Today's my birthday. Well, at least I hope so. I don't know. I don't ever get these videos out in time due to like hard work constraints and editing and time and how and why is this relevant to the video? It isn't at all. But I don't have a segue, so let's talk about the video. Sparking Zero was a spiritual successor to Budokai Tenkaichi and it released on October 8th of 2024. Now, in all my gamer wisdom, I was very skeptical of this game. With that being said, I still got it near release, and my uncle got it for me, I believe 2 weeks after, and I posted videos of me playing the game. Let me just preface by saying I had fun. I got to, I believe, A5, and then I just hopped off the game. It was no longer interesting to me, and I moved on. Today, I wanted to touch on something I think people are willfully ignorant of, and that is the discourse around the word dead or fell off when participating in discourse about a video game. Okay, I'll preface this next part by saying that yes, a significant drop in player count or viewership typically does entail that a game isn't as big as it used to be. However, literally no game has ever not done what I would like to call settling, in my own words. To contextualize, I think that it's evident when something like settling happens in a story-based game, and it's much more acceptable by the gaming community when a story-based game settles. Even though I'm bringing this up, let me just explain that I think that this is completely acceptable, understandable, and logical. But my issue is that the gaming community doesn't do this with online or live service-based video games, especially recently. If I were to define the word settling, I think I would define it as something like a period of time after the honeymoon phase of a game, where people who played it and finished whatever story mode or arcade the game has to offer move on. Not because of lack of frequent updates or because the quality of life changes are non-existent. It's not even because of lack of new content, but simply because, and it's crazy that I have to say this, people kind of get bored of doing the same thing over and over again. Crazy, I know, right? It's almost like gaming is a broad industry structured in a way that makes its player base want to experience new things. For example, new games from their favorite IPs that shake up the gameplay or add something new. When this doesn't happen, guess what? You move on to something else that interests you. Ubisoft, Far Cry, Assassin's Creed. In the case of games like Sparking Zero and other fighting game IPs, this is very prevalent. When a new release comes up, other people that aren't diehard fans of the game and want to check out the franchise, games for example like Street Fighter 6, Mortal Kombat 1, and Tekken 8, all of these games attract the broader fan base of gamers when they first come out. This notion applies to literally everyone that plays games, not only people who enjoy fighting games. Sometimes fighting games aren't their cup of tea and they still try it out. This is okay, because for them, they play the game, they experience what it has to offer, maybe try out ranked, get slammed around, play online head-to-head, maybe also some couch co-op with their friends, and all the other content that the game has to offer. But after this, everyone has the same fabled question: what's next? Well, for the casual gamer or the non-fighting game enjoyer, nothing. That's it. They move on and they try out the next release. Now, and this isn't everyone. And other gamers, the ones who hone their skills or really want to become competitive at the game and want to play online to see where they stack up on the leaderboard, or, like me, just simply have a personal connection with the franchise and want to see it grow and also be around for every new piece of content or every small or new update. Just like indie games, the amount of people that this point of the game appeals to is obviously going to be smaller. I don't even know I have to entertain and push the notion that yes, after a game comes out, it starts to appeal to the people who still like it. That's kind of how anything works in the world. If a new barbecue spot opened up in your town, everyone would go check it out. Maybe some people that don't even like barbecue. But guess what? After a while, after business settles, they're going to appeal to people who like barbecue. It's not because they're not grateful to the people who came before or the casuals that just wanted to try out something new. It's just simply because that's how you keep business flowing. Now let's take this analogy and go all the way back to Sparking Zero. Let's put on our Brainiac hats for a moment and think. given the information I just gave about large IPs, attraction to franchises and large fan bases, and people wanting to try out a game in search of content, do you think that this applies to the game Sparking Zero? I'm not even going to entertain the thought that someone will have to take the time to answer that question. Yes, Sparking Zero falls under this umbrella. I mean, like, seriously, did you really think that Dragon Ball would release a video game where you fight and big colors and lights flash around with fancy animations? They created a perfect formula to subsidize everything and get a lot of people to attract to their game. This game was literally made to appeal to everyone, regardless of if you like anime, gaming, or even just conventional fighting game fans. We're in a stage of gaming where the industry wants to appeal to everyone all the time. This is typically with remakes or remasters of games that have already been established and already have established fan bases and franchises. The ironiness hasn't been lost on me, given that Dragon Ball is, actually no, it is the biggest anime ever. That's not the only thing riding on this game. And even without this being a game that is a standalone title, because it is a remaster, or not necessarily a remaster, but it is something based off the Budokai Tenkaichi series, let's not act like Dragon Ball doesn't already have its foot into the gaming department. Xenoverse 1 and 2, The Raging Blast, the entire series, Fighters, and last but certainly not least, Budokai Tenkaichi, the entire series, which, as I just said, is what Sparking Zero is a predecessor of. Now, and crazy enough, you want to know a numerical statistic? Every single one of these games are in the top 100 in the best-selling fighting games of all time. Now, like any other fighting game or just game IP based off a pre-existing anime, cartoon, or franchise, of course is going to bring attraction. But games in the same vein as this, such as the Naruto Storm series, or even as recently as like 3 years ago with Demon Slayer's the Hinokami Chronicles, people who don't even care about the franchise and its IPs along with its characters stick around to play it competitively. Not because of the characters, like I just said, and not even maybe because of the gameplay, but just because they enjoy fighting games. There's no way that every single Dragon Ball game that has ever been released has never flopped and it's always sold millions of units. You don't do that by just simply being a bad game over time. And speaking of animation, we're also in a time period where animation appeals to everyone. Animated movies and TV shows are already existing gaming titles as big as ever. Arcane, we just saw this. Shows like Fallout, The Last of Us, even Halo, Street Fighter, Mortal Kombat, Cuphead, Sonic, Pac-Man. Gaming as a whole is pushing itself out there and Dragon Ball makes no exception. Now, with all this information in the back of everyone's head, how did anyone truly think that this game wouldn't have a massive or gargantuan launch? Of course it would. And just like I explained, once everyone settled in, tested the extensive list of long characters, and frequent updates and supports stopped being the priority, the average person left, and that's completely fine. I have a very, very important message, and I really want to tell you guys this. It is okay. It's okay for a game and its core experience to only appeal to everyone for a short amount of time. There's nothing on earth that everyone is going to like for a prolonged period of time, without getting bored of criticizing it, however that is. So why bother? One of the main issues nowadays is that people are so consumed with the current state of their game not meeting the unrealistic expectations they put in their mind pre-release, that when the game does fail, quote unquote, and the player who loves the game bashes it online, they make it seem like a bigger and broader issue than it actually is. This is highlighted to me that I feel like no one hates a game more than someone who likes it. And in a way I understand. I'm a die-hard Mortal Kombat fan. I bought MK1, MK11, MKX, and even MK9 on my granddad's PlayStation 3. All of those titles resonate with me in an emotional way. So of course I will stick with those games no matter how bad they are. But even though I stick around, that doesn't mean that I think everything's sunshine and rainbows. I will, and I have picked apart the game due to the extremist mindset I have for Mortal Kombat. I want to see it succeed, so when it doesn't, me and many other people make a push to overanalyze, asking ourselves where it all went wrong. You want to know the difference? Sparking Zero players, you do not deal with this problem Stop forcing it on your fan base. No, don't get me wrong. Does the game have problems and flaws that may have strayed people who stuck around anyway? Yes, absolutely. And I even said as such on Christmas Day in an analyzing video I had. The difference between this and games like Mortal Kombat 1 is that there's heart behind this game, with a developing studio that is attempting to listen to the audience and will take feedback in stride. There's no corporate greed, and they don't want to make this game worse, they want to make it better. The game recently just spiked with a Beast Gohan DLC, and I came back, and I'm not even interested in the game anymore. They're fighting game players, and more exclusively, gamers. Stop calling games dead because you don't play them, or the retention rate isn't as high as you would like it to be. Call it dead, but only if it comes out like something like Multiverse.